Yo guys, what is up? Welcome back to the channel. So I'm gonna go ahead and just address the elephant in the room. Reboot is getting a nerf because KMS complained so much. They're like, oh my god, why is Reboot so easy to progress? But anyways, long story short, Reboot is getting a nerf where you have to deal 5% damage to the bosses. So you can't really get carried anymore unless you deal that amount of damage to the boss. But you know, sometimes you're just really weak and it's just so hard. So my solution to that is just learn the bosses yourself and progress and be the big dick energy bosser in Reboot or reg server, whatever you play, you know, just carry yourself. Okay, just you got to learn these bosses. And you know, obviously you want to have your link skills and your legion, all that, at least to like 6k legion. You want all your powerful link skills like bossing ones like Kana, Demon Slayer, Demon Avenger, stuff like that. You know, just make sure you have all that in mind. And if you don't have that, then definitely work on that. Reboot is definitely about solo progression if you really want to, so you know, you don't need to be carried. So anyways, let's just get right into it. So number one is just you want to use your practice runs every day. You get 20 practice runs per day. I don't think a lot of people abuse this. You can literally practice the boss and learn an entire boss in like one day if you really try. Like maybe you could just sit down and like, you know, if you don't understand how to do will, you can literally just sit there and do it and like practice it for like an hour or two. And like it sounds like a pain in the ass when you could rather just be like popping a wop and Reboot or something. But like seriously, like you have to do these bosses eventually. You know, like the whole point of MapleStory, let's think about it. The whole point of MapleStory is to basically just grind and reach a high level, hit your link skills, finish all your link skills, do your legion, complete 8k legion, 9k legion, whatever. And then all of that gives you damage. It gives you damage, and that damage is used to kill the bosses. And that boss is, you know, going to give you a boss drop, and you're going to become a lot stronger. So whether you want to avoid this or not, you cannot avoid bossing in Reboot and Reg server. Like I mean, arguably you could just like be like a Henoho or something, but like seriously, if you want to like progress far in MapleStory, you have to be a bosser and you have to learn these bosses. So that's why I'm just like, hey, you got to do it, because I ran into the same problem. I was like, oh, I don't want to boss, and I was like, you know what, I have to boss. Like I have so much damage, I might as well just use it, right? So I just learned every boss, and it took me like literally like a week, and I was like, okay, well, every boss is just done now, so I'm not even gonna, you know, sugarcoat. Like I really hated bossing and like learning stuff like hard will, but then I taught myself and it was just like, okay, it's fine, it's a cakewalk. Like seriously, like once you get into it, it's like it's fun. Like every week it's like, oh, I get to kill this boss now, you know. All right, so number two, whatever class you main, look up videos of your class doing certain bosses. So for example, if you're an Adele, type in like Adele hard lucid solo, and then as a bonus you could type in like deathless and see if that pops up. See if like deathless lucid or like perfect run or something like that. Or you type in like say you're like a, I don't know, like a shadower, type in shadower will solo or something like that. Like whatever class you're playing, you need to know how to play that class efficiently and just copy other people. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, just literally copy other people and like see how they play it, see how the pros do it, because the pros know what they're doing. They play this game like religiously, man. Like they literally, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, like seriously. Just follow people, study that video, watch that video, bookmark it on your Google Chrome, whatever, just study that shit like it's your fucking test. And you have like one day to do that test, you know what I mean? Like just seriously, just copy other people. It's gonna help you so much. Type in whatever, remember, whatever your class you're playing, just type in that, and then type in the boss, and then type in the difficulty, like hard lucid, hard normal lucid, you know, hard lotus, whatever. Just do that. All right, number three is to obviously get your legion up to at least 6k. You know, if you're a beginner player and you really don't have that much legion, at least get it to 6k. 4k is kind of like the bare minimum, and then 6k you unlock the full grid. So 8k is like really good, like 8k you're set. 8.5k is where I'm at currently in my progression in reg server, so that is pretty much good. You get a lot of you get crit. If you're missing critical rate, you want to have 100% critical rate, all that. And then obviously you want to just fill out your critical damage, you want to fill out your boss damage and your ignore defense, stuff like that. So that is really helpful, but make sure your link, I would say link skills are more helpful like early game if you're just doing stuff like, I don't know, like Lotus, stuff like that, Damien. But yeah, your damage, and also if your damage is lacking, you really just want to get your level like pretty high. Like if you're like trying to tackle bosses that are like a lot harder and you're like, oh my god, I'm ready to do this boss, it's like chances are you aren't. Like if you're like under 250, you can't do the boss, because there's like a thing called level proximity where like you really just have to be like a really high level, like at least like maybe like 250, 260, like that general range to do stuff like lucid and will, like without like really struggling. But yeah, just grind a lot. You can practice doing it, it's gonna take a while. You could obviously do stuff like Will and Lucid like with 250, but I think the level proximity helps. And keep in mind the Cadena link. It's the thief class. The Cadena link gives you a bonus for having a higher level than the boss, so make sure you abuse that. And seriously, your damage will increase the higher level you are. So if you're in Reboot, just grind and get your meso, and just keep upgrading your gear until you have like a full set of like meso drop gear. But make sure you have your full stat gear. You don't want just, you know, drop gear and meso gear, which is, you know, essential for Reboot. But you also want to have damage, so just make sure you have like a lot of, you know, backup gear for yourself. But yeah. Number 4 is have your guildies teach you how to do bosses. Like seriously, like I think the best part about Reboot and just any server in general is just joining a really good guild, a well-established guild that is actually friendly. If you join a guild and they like literally shun you away, you're like, okay, first of all, I think people in general, they're like, they don't care if they're kind of annoyed that you want to ask them for carries. If you want to learn how to do the boss, I think people have a different attitude to that. So like if you're like, oh, I want to learn how to do this boss, can you guys teach me? Just type that in your guild chat and just be like, hey, I really want to learn how to do this boss, can you teach me? And they probably will say yes. So if no one's online though, just go on Discord. Your guild probably has a Discord account, sorry. Your guild probably has a Discord server, and you can just ask, and there's usually like a bossing channel or like a recruiting channel or something like that. I know my guild Discord has that, and you know, just ask them, be like, hey, I want to learn this boss, can you guys teach me? I have this much stat. And then they'll be like, first of all, you don't even have this much stat, and you can just go from there. So just make sure you always stay ready, like, you know, have your stats upgraded and stuff like that. Just make sure you're not like a complete like weakling, and you just have to have a certain amount of damage to do bosses. That's just, it's not even being harsh, it's just like seriously you just have to have like at least like a couple thousand legion, you know. So don't be afraid to like grind that out before, because if you just start the game, you only realistically should only be doing stuff like, you know, CRA, like, you know, Chaos Root Abyss, all that. So number 5 is just don't be ashamed of, you know, not doing the bosses. Like when I first started the game, I was just like, oh my god, I know how to do this boss, I just don't want to do it with you guys because I'm so good, like blah, blah, blah. I was like being so arrogant and stuff. It's like so cringe, honestly. But like once you actually learn how to do the boss, you're like, oh, this is actually easy, why was I even like faking it? You know, it's like you could fake it till you make it, but like seriously, just don't be ashamed of like not knowing how to do the bosses. Because I was like, my brain cells could not tolerate or like even comprehend how to do Will. I was like, what kind of boss is this? Like Lucid was pretty easy for me to learn, like I literally taught myself so fast. And then Will, it took me like a week to really learn it, and then I was just like, oh, okay, this is actually easier than I thought. So I was just like, oh yeah, I know how to do Will. Like, you know, I was being so cocky. I was like, but then you like learn how to do it, and it's like, okay, now you know how to do it, and it's a lot easier. And but yeah, don't be afraid to like just admit it. And if guess what, if you are prideful and arrogant and have an ego, that's fine. Just be like, hey, like I'm gonna practice it myself so nobody knows that I don't actually know how to do the boss. You know what I mean? Like that's exactly what I did. I was just like, oh, no one's gonna know that I don't know how to do this boss, so I'm gonna just practice it until I actually clear it. And then that's what happened. So yeah, I did that, and you know, I'm not ashamed to admit that, because you know, I can be a little bit arrogant sometimes, and you know, as long as you admit that and you're self-aware, it's whatever. And but yeah, just to wrap things up, the whole purpose of MapleStory is to grind, to get your Legion ups, to get your Link skills, to become a lot stronger, to upgrade your gear, and then become really strong, and then just kill bosses. Like the whole purpose is just a cycle of, you know, training and then, you know, doing bosses. Every week you get, you know, every week the bosses reset, and you know, you just have to learn the bosses, because you're gonna eventually run into the wall, the brick wall. You know, you have to do bosses, you can't just avoid it. So that's why I made this video, because, well, also because the Reboot nerf thing, it's like you really just have to learn how to do bosses, because holy shit, they're gonna nerf it and you're gonna be like, oh my god, I can't get carried anymore, no. So I know everyone's thinking about it like, oh my god, the Reboot nerf, thank you KMS, fuck you KMS, like I don't know. But seriously, like you guys need to learn to do the bosses. And I was also kind of just like, oh my god, I can't do bosses, I'm so afraid of doing it because it's so hard. But then you just really have to force yourself to do it. Like seriously, just to recap everything, run your practice mode 20 times per day. You get a free buff freezer basically, so don't worry about like wasting your buff freezers, whatever. Type in your class on YouTube. YouTube is your friend, guys. YouTube is your friend. You're watching my videos on YouTube, you might as well just go on YouTube and type in like Shadow, whatever class you main. Like say you're like an Adele, just type in Adele bossing, whatever. Type in Dual Blade bossing, type in Night Lord bossing, type in frickin' Ho Young bossing, like whatever class you play. Especially if your class is niche, you gotta type in that class and then type in boss. And then you can also join your class Discord. Usually they have like a class Discord, so if you're like a hero or something, you're a Dawn Warrior, type in like Dawn Warrior Discord on MapleStory and just, or there's like a Reddit thread out there that literally links all of the class Discords, and just go into that Discord and just learn how to do bosses. But don't ask like super stupid questions, because people usually kick you out of this. People like hate you. They like hate crime you for like not knowing like obvious questions. But yeah, that's the thing about the MapleStory community, is that sometimes people are just kind of like assholes. They're like, oh my god, you don't know how to do this, you don't know how to do that, how fucking, like, are you new? Like, people are so mean sometimes. But like, yeah, just like DM someone, it's usually not as humiliating, so people don't like roast you in like the public Discord. But yeah, I digress. But yeah, seriously guys, you gotta learn the bosses, because they're nerfing Reboot, and in a reg server you can just, I don't think there's a nerf for reg server, just live your life. Buy your gear. But Reboot, you gotta learn this shit. You gotta learn this shit. Like, you cannot avoid it. Okay, so get into it. All right, I hope these tips were helpful. If you guys enjoyed this video, leave a like, leave a comment, leave any of your advice or tips in the comments below. I would love for people to read it and just have a community to, you know, inspire themselves to progress further in MapleStory. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. Love you guys so much.